So for the first location inside of Disney World for this episode, actually it was not technically within their time on Disney property. It was actually in Corey's dream when Topanga and the other boy that was going with her on the trip to Disney were on the Dumbo Flying Elephant attraction, and Corey ended up having a dream about it, waking up in his bed, and then Eric telling him to head to Florida after Topanga. And this would have been the first scene actually filmed there, right here at the original location of Dumbo the Flying Elephant, which you could also see in our last Full House filming location video, right over here. Over at Epcot, actually at the entrance area, this is technically not, I believe, the actual location. The area has been remodeled since that time, back when they had Leave a Legacy in here. Now they've re-added this area to make it look more like the original park. But pretty much right here would have been where the scene where Corey and Sean would have first arrived at Disney, and they would have dropped their bags and stood on top of the ground right up there, and they would have looked over as Topanga and the other kids would have drove by on a golf cart, which is something you never see in a theme park, visitors riding on a golf cart. But they did just right across here at Epcot, one of the first scenes in Disney. So the majority of scenes in this episode were taped at the Seas with Nemo and Friends Pavilion, which that is the current name, formerly the Living Seas Pavilion. A whole lot of scenes in the episode were taped here. Actually, the beginning portion of the episode where they're getting a tour around, which actually does not really happen in the parks. They would be giving a tour. This would have been after Corey and Sean would have searched everywhere but that one place. And then finally, at the end towards the end of the episode, Corey went back in there and talked to the girl from Step by Step. I forget her name, but he talked to her, and that would have been inside of that pavilion. There's actually one more location inside of this pavilion that we will get to a little later on in the video. All right, so the next location is right here at the Splash Mountain loading station. We actually did not film very much, but here's actually the footage from the episode. Corey and Sean would have awoken, and this would have been when they decided to continue their day. Okay, well, it would have been the next day, the following day, and they would have been continued their search for Topanga, and then they would have started the ride for the day, and then the two would have plunged down the hill.
It's a new day, and when I sweep Topi off her feet, I want to be clean and fresh.
Corey, where are we going to find a shower?
It's a new day, and when I sweep Topi off her feet, I want to be clean and fresh.
Corey, where are we going to find a shower?
Now where do we find a towel? Now where do we find a towel?
All right, so right over here in the bridge to Tomorrowland, it actually looks a little bit different than it did then. It's kind of hard to tell. Some of the stuff's a little more rearranged, but this, you could tell because of the part on this clip right here where they ran underneath the sign. Right over here, this was the location, just about somewhere on this bridge, where they would have stopped and talked to the Beast about where Topanga might be. But he didn't know, and, you know, they were just looking around. Actually, it's kind of strange that they'd go ask a character, since the characters in the parks don't talk. But it would have been just right over here in the spot where they would have ran and talked to the Beast. A couple of these montage locations we missed, but actually right over here, you can see our car driving. There would have been a scene where Topanga and that other boy that went with them to Disney would have been driving in one of the Tomorrowland Speedway cars, and they would have been chased by Corey, who's of course trying to track her down. All right, so right over here at the Morocco Pavilion in World Showcase at Epcot would have been the location where, in that montage, where Corey would have dressed up as one of the cast members around that area to try to get to Topanga again. Just he would have walked right over there. I mean, they would have walked right over there to where he was, continuing the montage, but she would have once again ran away from it. Alright, so right over here, back once again at this tank, and also back in that restaurant, would have been the scene, one more scene that I mentioned earlier, inside of the Seas Pavilion. It would have been where Topanga was having dinner at the restaurant, and Corey would have been inside of the tank holding a sign that said, I will chase you forever, after the montage had ended. Just see that right there. And then she would have left and gone outside, on the outside of the Seas Pavilion, the Living Seas, and seen him out there. And then after that would have been, like I mentioned earlier, he would have walked back in to the place and met up with the girl from Step by Step. Alright, so right here, this is actually just a newly rebuilt fountain. Looks actually like the old fountain that used to be at this spot. This is actually not a filming location, but I just decided to come over here at the entrance to Epcot and mention that it just kind of looks a little bit like it, even though the fountain from the episode, where at the closing moments of the episode, just before showing a scene or two back home, they would have had their kiss right at the fountain. It would have zoomed out, and you would have been able to see the fountain in the Epcot geodesic sphere in the background. And here's actually a clip from Soarin' that we actually did get to ride, so technically we did see it just in a video format, even though it currently does not exist. I believe that it might have been torn out, but this is actually a clip from someone else's video. But this was the closest we got to actually seeing it at Epcot. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next video.